And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's RBLR Sports.
Ahoy, listeners! Welcome in to another thrilling episode of RBLR Bucs, your ultimate destination for all things Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm your co-host, Musab, and I'm thrilled to have you join us as we sail through the highs and lows of Buccaneers football. But before we get into it, I just want to say it's been one hell of a ride this season, and although we've reached the end of this voyage, there is still so much to talk about. Now, I know the season has come to a close for our beloved Bucs, and yes, it's bittersweet, and it feels like that ship has docked after a long journey, and it's like that moment when you return to the port after a voyage of the wild seas, and it's got its highs and some rough waters, but no matter what, we always return to prepare for the next adventure. And here at RBLR Bucs, we keep that ship afloat, whether we're navigating the off-season blues or reflecting on the wild ride we just had. So let's just get to it. That last game against the Commanders, it was disgusting. All right. And honestly, looking back, I do have to say, though, I feel quite satisfied. Obviously, it wasn't the ending we wanted, but this season was a journey in itself. And we weathered the storms together. Each wave brought us closer to this team. So for that reason, I want to kind of sum up this season to me as satisfied. But enough of me. You didn't come here to only hear one opinion. You came for the whole crew. So that being said, let me introduce you to my two awesome co-hosts who are always ready to navigate these turbulent seas of Buccaneers football with me. First up, we got the man who brings the heat, the one with the fiery takes and the bold predictions, Mr. Zach Blaine. What's the good word? And yeah, man, tell me how you feeling right now.
It's a weird feeling, man. It was the season didn't go how we thought, and that was like in a good way. But also the way it ended kind of sucked, man. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get into it, but it's just the way we lost, I think, really hurts me most. But, this show isn't anything without the final puzzle piece of this iconic trio, as I've said a million times, the captain of sharpened sights, and he's got that steady hand on the helm who keeps us on course, Mr. Carter Brantley. Talk to me, boss man. How you feeling?
Oh, I'm all right, man. Yeah, it was a tough game to watch on Sunday for sure. A whole lot went wrong, but yet the Bucs still only lost by 3. While we're sitting here, talking about how poorly they played, they still put up a decent enough fight. It was obviously not the result you wanted, and there were a lot of areas that you can point to that we'll certainly get to all of it. There are a lot of areas of improvement that you could point to for this past game, and it was kind of a microcosm of the whole season, really, in some aspects. The defense played okay. It was all right, I guess, but no takeaways or anything. Like they didn't lose the game, but they certainly didn't win it either. And you could kind of say the same thing about the offense, if we're being honest. So both sides kind of struggled. The Commanders didn't exactly play super well either, but they just played a little bit less bad, for lack of a better word. 23-20 was the final score. It was a game-winning field goal. Obviously, not the first time we've seen that this year for the Bucs. So it was a tough way to go down. It was the fewest points scored in a game since the San Francisco game, which also ironically ended in a game-winning kick by the 49ers. Take whatever. Bucky Irving had another kind of weird first half where he only had 6 carries. I'm not really sure what to make of that. He averaged 4.5 yards per carry. We'll start with the offensive side of the ball just because, we'll start there. And he only had 17 carries, which I thought was kind of maybe a little low. In the second half, he had a little bit more than obviously in the first, but it's kind of another week of a weird kind of awkward start to the first half. What were y'all's thoughts on that? It was just kind of weird. Musab, I'll start with you, man. What are your thoughts on Bucky's role in this offense over the past couple of weeks and kind of the weird first halves?
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't know why we don't kind of, utilize him more. I feel like we've always had these kind of weird starts. I feel like it's pretty common. It's nothing that unusual, but, as time goes on, and I feel like, when the Buccaneers organization, I feel like itself is kind of, realizing that, Bucky is RB1. it does make me think, well, why do we not come up with some more kind of ideas as to how we can kind of, take advantage of, his skills and all that. But I don't know, honestly. I mean, I'll kind of just leave it at that. I just feel like, we come in every game with a different approach. And I feel like maybe we were kind of just thinking, let's go maybe a little bit more aggressive on the pass game.
Yeah, I mean, I totally, I can actually, I love the fact that they, in some aspects, maybe pass to set up the run. I know the traditional thing is to run to set up the pass, set up play action and everything, but the Bucks are also, I mean, theoretically, they're a really good running team, so, and they were playing a really awful rush defense. So it was a bit weird to see them come out in the first half and only have 6 carries for Bucky Irving, their leading rusher, one of the best running backs in the NFL this season. But that's how it goes sometimes. Sometimes the game plan works out a certain way, sometimes it doesn't. Obviously, you can't just hammer it up the middle every play. Otherwise, you have Dave Canales' offense from last year, and so it can be kind of tough. But Mr. Blaine, how about you, man? What were your thoughts on sort of the game plan and how Bucky Irving kind of moving forward? Do you think they changed that at all, or what were your thoughts on Bucky Irving's role in this offense over the past couple of weeks?
I mean, it's irritating in a sense because you want to see him run the ball as much as you can. But I also kind of understand it because if we become a team that runs the ball, let's just say 15 times each half, then we're going to become predictable. So I'm trying to make it make sense in my head, and like that's all I can come up with. But when you're playing a team that's got an awful run defense, I would have expected more runs in that situation, but maybe not the kind of runs that we had schemed up for this game.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of weird. It was just strange. I mean, speaking of the runs, there were a few running calls that were really strange. Obviously, the biggest one that people think of is the botched handoff to Jalen McMillan on the little jet sweep or end around, whatever you want to call it. So it was just kind of weird. They also called 2 designed quarterback runs last week. They called one in a really big play, a 3rd and short, and Baker lost 7 yards, which I'm not putting that on Baker. He's not Lamar Jackson. That's just, I don't know. It was very strange. And it was only they had going into this past week, they had called 4 designed quarterback runs all year, and then they called 2 in one game. I don't know. It was very strange, especially in big moments. It was just getting too cute. It was getting too fancy for their own good. So I don't know. I didn't love it, but at the same time, I understand creativity is huge, and I love that. But at a certain point, it becomes too much for me, and I think that at certain times they could kind of cross that line with some of these play calls. But I don't know. What were y'all's thoughts on sort of the creative play calls, if you want to call them that? Zach, I'll start with you, man. Kind of, I don't know. It was kind of weird to me, just getting too fancy. But maybe you disagree. What were your thoughts on the game?
So I don't necessarily disagree. I do think that we were getting a little too fancy, but also a majority of the time that we ran those end around plays, they worked.
That's a great point. The success rate was
5 yards or 20 yards.
For sure. Absolutely.
Most of the time we ran those plays, they worked. I will say, I believe most of the time we ran those plays, it was with Sterling Shepard, but I could be wrong there.
No, yeah, that's what that's what I found, at least. It was
okay. So I don't understand why we wouldn't have put Shepard in those situations, although then it becomes telegraphing your play if you have one player.
That's a good point. Game theory.
As far as the quarterback runs, this week they didn't work. Last week it didn't work, but I will say last week there was a pretty clear missed block, if I'm not mistaken, that got Baker tackled. Right. So again, if you have a play that would have worked if one guy made a block, then I think that's a risk you should be willing to take. But yeah, you can't really put that on Baker because
no, not at all.
He's not Lamar. If he gets 15 yards on any run, I'm happy. Let alone a designed run,
Right. Yeah, I don't know. It was a weird thing just calling a read option with Baker Mayfield as your quarterback. It's not the winning formula. I don't know. And it was a big time decision. It was a big time play. I think it was either the 2nd or the 3rd and short. It was like a really key play in the game, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan of it, but like you said, the the jet sweeps, they mostly worked. And like you said, you don't want to just telegraph like, oh, they're putting Sterling in motion, get ready for the jet sweep, and then it gets blown up. So it's kind of a difficult thing. But at the same time, man, like, it's a big time situation like that. You take a big risk and it doesn't work out. You kind of end up looking like a donkey. And, the Bucs kind of looked like a donkey this past weekend. But Mr. Treek, how about you, man? Maybe you're on the side of caution more than like taking these kind of risky play calls, or maybe you're sticking up for Liam Cohen saying, hey, it's worked in the past and it should have worked Sunday, but it just didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, just because, it's playoff ball too. And I feel like maybe, we were trying to have a little bit, kind of fun with it. And maybe we wanted to kind of use as many tricks we had up our sleeve, really more than anything. These things in the past have shown that they do work. But, in my opinion, I feel like we should have taken advantage of their poor run defense more than anything. But, it's just hard to say just because I just felt like it was kind of up and down overall for the most part of this game. So, sometimes, we'd be looking real good and things would just work out. And then sometimes it just wouldn't for a variety of reasons. And, that's just how football works. But, I'm kind of like meh on how we did on the first half and, overall, our offense and defense both. But, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough thing, because if it works, then we're sitting here praising Liam Cohen, saying, "Oh, what a genius!" The jet sweep inside their own 20, like what a play call, So it's tough. It's a tough balance to strike. They clearly saw something that they liked and they went for it. Just didn't work out. Just sometimes it doesn't work out, and that's life. That's how it be sometimes. But shifting our focus to the defensive side of the ball, I'm not gonna credit or debit them that touchdown that they gave up at the end of the game after the fumble. Like, that's kind of tough. That's nitpicky. The drive started at the 13-yard line. Like they had just come off the goal line stand, and then they were, it was just a tough stretch. I'm not going to put that on them. They gave up 16 points if you don't count the touchdown. If you want to give them a field goal there, like say they gave up 19 points, maybe. I don't know. But regardless, I thought that the defense played okay, which compared to how they had played the rest of the season, it was actually pretty impressive. But Mr. Treek, how about you, man? Were you impressed at all with the defensive performance on Sunday?
Yes. If I had to summarize it, I would say yes. I feel like, before the game, last week it was really just kind of focusing on, Terry McLaurin and, Jaden Daniels. And, I feel like, Terry McLaurin, he had some real good catches out there. So we did what we could with him, but overall, otherwise, yeah, the defense shut him down big time. And, Jaden Daniels, he showed his wheels here and there, but I feel like, when we were able to pressure him, he was deep in trouble. If you couldn't find Terry, I feel like, most of the time we would succeed. But I have to say, that last drive, that last touchdown that the Commanders got, I feel like that more than anything was more of a mental war as well. Because just imagine you're the defense, you just stop these guys. You know what I'm saying? You're all fired up. 4 plays later, boom, you're back on the field. And on top of that, these guys are only 13 yards away.
Right.
It's scary. It's stressful because it's playoff ball. You're already up. It's you win or you go home. So there's a lot of those kind of factors. And I feel like at that point, yeah, if you're playing playoff ball and, you're only a couple yards away from the end zone, you should be good enough to try to get a touchdown. You know what I'm saying? That's exactly what they did. The first time, they went for it. They didn't succeed. The second time they said, you know what, let's try it again. And they did succeed. So I have to say, though, I am overall kind of happy, but it just hurts. It just hurts the way to see it all kind of unravel like that just towards the end.
Yeah, they still came up short. They played well enough, but it still wasn't quite good enough. And I don't know, the lack of takeaways recently for this defense has been a bit concerning. They played decent enough this past weekend to get a victory, but yeah, a takeaway here or there would have really helped them out. It would have been game changing. It would have been huge. But unfortunately, that just didn't work out that way this year. Just a little unlucky, maybe. I don't know, but forcing takeaways.
Well, just imagine. I think it was Deion Jones who missed that interception.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm just imagine if he caught that, got tackled immediately at the third, or, at the 3 or 4 yard line or something.
Hmm.
Who knows? Maybe we wouldn't have done that kind of sweep to McMillan. We would have done a different play, and then we would have gone down the field. What
It's
if? You know what I'm saying?
maddening.
So
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's maddening if we go down that rabbit hole. I feel you. Yeah, it's brutal. But Mr. Blaine, how about you, man? What were your thoughts on the defensive performance? Maybe you're less impressed than Musab and myself, but I don't know. I thought as bad as they had been all year, I was expecting worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm impressed because it wasn't a good defensive game. It was just all right. Like the fact that we're excited about an all right defensive game should really say something about a defensive-minded head coach. Anyway, I digress. No, in all reality, my issue with the defense this week and past weeks, I guess, is big time plays. Like I get they aren't very prone to takeaways, and that's been an issue not just this year, in the past couple of years, I would say. But the bigger issue is like key plays, fourth down, third and long. We seem to get beat a lot on pass first plays, if that makes sense at all.
Yeah, expected pass situations. I get
Yeah,
you.
and that's my biggest issue, is because I know there was at least 2 fourth downs in the first half that got converted. So it's
Right.
just like in little things
Yep.
like that. Like I'm thankful, and red zone defense / big plays, they didn't really have too many of them, but every time it was a key play, it felt like we were giving them the ball.
Yeah, it's tough, man. Yeah, they were a really good offense to play against. The Commanders have a good offense, but at the same time, like it's the playoffs. Every offense that they play is going to be good.
Exactly.
So that's not really necessarily something you can just kind of flush. So yeah, it's tough to get it to get excited about the performance that they had on Sunday, but at the same time, like that progress comes in many different forms. Hopefully, maybe this is a step forward for the Bucs. Maybe next season they're able to kind of ride this momentum. Hey, we kind of played well in the playoffs. Let's work on some other things. I don't know. I'm at least hopeful going into the offseason. Not necessarily because of this last defensive performance, but just because I feel like it's a young team, one of the youngest in the NFL. So even if they get marginally improved on the defensive side of the ball from younger guys like Chris Braswell or Kalijah Cansey, maybe he takes a step forward, or the the safety room, Tyke Smith, or anything like that, Christian Izzy. And there's a lot of youth on this football team, so any marginal improvements could be huge for the Bucs. So I'm cautiously optimistic moving forward. But obviously, the season's coming to an end, and we'll have some more broad NFL topics for the second half of this episode, and we'll have a whole offseason to talk about and look back at this season. But just initial thoughts. How will you look back at this season? Do you think it's a success, a failure, somewhere in between? Zach, I'll let you call it a failure, I'm sure, but go for it.
I'm not going to call it a failure.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
It's just I mean, it was a season. Like I said, we won more than we expected to, but then I think the biggest issue for us was that we, as fans, once we started winning, we're like, we're actually a dangerous team. Like we got our hopes up too high, I think. So overall, like if you would have asked me this at the beginning of the season, if I thought this is how the season would have gone, I probably would have said no. So I would label that as a success. Baker had one of the best seasons of his career.
The
Bucky
best.
Irving had a great season. We found our running back one that I've been begging for. So overall, I'd call it a successful season, even if it didn't have us winning a Super Bowl. Like I think it pointed out big needs that we have, which a lot of us already saw, but I think it pointed it out even more. And now we know what we need to build on for next year. This was never supposed to be a Super Bowl year for us. Like we were I know we wanted it, but we were in cap hell. Like it's what happens. And now we need to now we just need to build on it.
Mr. Blaine, that was the most rational answer I think you could have given. That was
there's a little bit of throw up right here from having to say that. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Well, man, I got nothing to add. That's what I would have said. Yeah, that's perfect. Mr. Tariq, how about you, man? Anything to add?
I mean, I gotta say, yeah. I mean, I'm overall satisfied. I'm happy with what I saw this season. I do have to say, I feel like, yeah, a couple of our games, we lost because of one play or one drive or something, which obviously is always a bummer. But overall, I mean, our run game drastic improvements. Our rookies, you know, Graham Barton, Bucky Irving, Jalen McMillan, hell, even we'll throw in Devin Culp, Tyke Smith, all of them, all of them actually, panned out to, be pretty good and very, helpful for our team. It's just the way it ended, honestly. You know, the way I saw this game, guys, was it's like, a fight between two guys, each of them getting one punch back and forth. But that fumble at the end of the game, that was just the Commanders getting like 20 straight punches at us. You know what I'm saying? It went from back and forth just to a brutal beatdown. But yeah, overall, though, I'm happy. I think, as you said already, Carter, it's just it's a step forward, and
Yeah.
as long as we're making step forwards, that's all that matters.
Yeah, I mean it's not a step backwards. They could have missed the playoffs this year. They could have done all sorts of things wrong. But yeah, I thought it was a nice step forward. The future is pretty bright for the Bucs. I'm pretty excited about them moving forward. So I think that's a good thing if nothing else. But if you're looking to make a step forward in your wardrobe, if you're looking at your clothing options and you're saying, man, I think I need to draft a Bucky Irving, or I need to draft a Graham Barton for my closet. Definitely head to shop.rblrsports.com. Use promo code Cannon, CANNONS, for 10% off your entire order. It's the end of the season. We'll give you a little departing gift. So that's it. We got all the Tampa Bay sports needs. Definitely check us out there, and we'd really appreciate it. But moving on to the second half of the episode, we're going to take a look more around the NFL, a little bit of college football sprinkled in too, because hey, there's the Bucs aren't the only team in the football world, right? So I wanted to take kind of a look around, and we'll start with the Super Bowl because, man, these playoffs are heating up. We got some really great games this weekend. Kansas City and Houston are going to be playing. Philly's going to be taking on Washington, right? Do I have that right? Or
No,
No,
oh
it's
no, I'm
the
sorry.
Commanders, Lions,
Yes,
Rams, Eagles.
yes, sorry. If the Bucks aren't involved, I'm not paying attention. Am I right, guys? No, I'm just kidding. But no, there should be some really great football this weekend. But out of the divisional rounds, obviously the teams remaining, who do you think ends up in the Super Bowl? Who you got winning? Mr. Streak, I'll start with you, man. Who's your Super Bowl pick?
Oof, I got Ravens, Lions, or at least that's what I'm
Ooh,
hoping
okay.
for.
I
I think
love it.
that'll be real fun. I feel
That would
like, I
be a
mean,
blast.
Lions have come, so far, and Ravens. I mean, I'd love watching Lamar Jackson. So, and
Yeah, he's a hoot.
but if I really have to summarize it all, anyone but the Chiefs, please and thank you.
Yeah,
Honestly,
preach. Yep, preaching to the
yeah,
choir. Who you got winning that matchup? Ravens or Detroit?
Ravens. I
Ravens.
got
Wow.
Ravens winning it all. I really do hope. I hope they win it all. Honestly, I really want Lamar Jackson to win it all, just because I still think about that time when he got drafted and no one picked him up, and he actually said he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna make sure every team, regrets not picking me." And then hearing things like, how the Heisman winner should be playing wide receiver or running back. There were some reports of that, and it's like,
Oh yeah.
this is nonsense. So
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about the MVP voting and stuff later on in the episode, but yeah, I'd be stoked to see Lamar in the Super Bowl and winning one. That would be awesome too. But Zach, how about you, man? Hit us with your Super Bowl pick and who you got winning.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a boring conversation because I got the exact same matchup Musab has.
Oh shoot!
I've got
Okay, cool.
Ravens, Lions. I will say I have the Lions pulling this one out.
Ooh, okay, first
I
Super Bowl for Detroit. My goodness.
don't know why.
Mm.
Detroit has built something there. Dan Campbell has built something there. The rebirth of Jared Goff and just everything about this team makes me happy. And it's such a weird thing to say because being a diehard Bucs fan, I feel like I shouldn't like any other NFL team, but I love the Ravens. I love the Lions. If I have to pick, I want them to play in it, and I've got the Lions being kind of like the I don't want to call them an underdog story because they're not an underdog this season.
Yeah, they're
They're
the
like
first seed. It's tough to call them that, but
yeah, but
I feel
it's
you.
like a glow up.
Yeah, for sure.
They're the last team I remember going 0-16. I think the
Yeah,
Browns it after them, but
right.
like I remember them going 0-16, and now to see them be kind of a powerhouse and not have like any selfish or hate like diva-ish people, like it's awesome to see.
Yeah, no, they've got a great thing going on there. Dan Campbell obviously knows what the heck he's doing. And yeah, unlike the Browns, they're likable. The Browns are not really
Oh
a
yeah.
likable team
Oh
right
Lord.
now. No one wants to see the Browns succeed. Everyone's kind of cheering on their demise, but not the Lions. Everyone's super excited for them, and rightfully so. They've been playing really well this season, and their turnaround has been remarkable. I would love that Super Bowl matchup. That is my preferred Super Bowl matchup, but I unfortunately just death taxes and Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. I got can't if I was a betting man or whatever, Kansas City would be out of the AFC, unfortunately. Um, and I got them playing the Eagles, and then I've got Kansas City winning
Ooh.
again. I hope
Damn.
the Eagles. I hope the Eagles beat them hypothetically if that scenario happens.
Vegas won't
Oh,
let that happen.
what's that?
Vegas won't let that happen.
Facts. That's exactly right. Vegas will not let that happen. Roger Goodell will not let that happen. Yeah, no, I feel you. Yeah, I got Kansas City winning it all again just because, it seems like it's just inevitable.
Because of Taylor Swift.
Oh, I don't know about that. I think it has more to do with the Mahomes needing, to keep pushing Brady. They need a new golden boy. Mahomes is the new golden boy, but whatever.
Hey, Jared Goff can be the golden boy.
What's that?
Jared Goff or Lamar Jackson can be the golden boy.
I would
I would
prefer
love
it
it.
to be the golden boy.
Yeah, I'd love it.
I get what you're saying. I guess
Oh, yeah.
I said my preferred matchup. I do think like end all be all, I would not be even the least bit surprised if the Chiefs were in the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl. Like it's just one of those things where I kind of expect it, so I try and put stuff out there to make it not happen.
Yeah, I feel you. I'd love for that not to happen, but yeah, unfortunately, I don't know. I just got a bad feeling about this, to quote a million different Star Wars movies. But there's also the college football playoff championship. I believe it's this weekend, right? Is it tomorrow?
It might be.
It might be. Well, regardless, I know Ohio State, Notre Dame.
I believe it's on. Isn't it on? It's on Monday.
No, I
Right?
think
It's on Monday. That's right. Yeah, because they've always
Yeah.
got the weird college football.
I know it's kind of weird.
Schedule and everything. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So Monday night, Ohio State, Notre Dame. That should be kind of fun. They've got two pretty talented teams, two kind of nauseating fan bases, if we're being completely honest. I've never met a Notre Dame or Ohio State fan that I didn't find insufferable, but maybe that's just my experiences. But who y'all got winning that matchup on Monday, Mr. Tariq? Who you got? Ohio State, Notre Dame.
Oof. Oh man, this one's kind of tough. I'll probably lean Ohio State. Kind of want
Yeah,
Notre Dame
me
to
too.
win just because of Marcus Freeman and all that, but I don't know. I have to lean Ohio State. I feel like the way they performed compared to that Notre Dame Penn State game, it was just a lot more dominant. And I mean, they got some good guys. I mean, yeah, Jeremiah Smith, only a freshman, absolute
insane.
beast. So
He'd be a
yeah, I
top
mean,
five.
you got a good number. Yeah. Oh yeah. So
he's
I
crazy.
mean, it's going to be a good game. Honestly, I just hope it's a great game because I still think about that day that I canceled all my plans to watch the Georgia TCU game,
Oh man, that's brutal.
only for it to be the most
Yeah,
atrocious game
absolute
I ever
dud.
watched. So I just hope
No,
it's a real good game, and
me too.
yeah, I'll be happy with whatever turnout. Especially since there's no SEC in there, which was okay. It's kind of
Yeah, it's kind of
that
interesting.
was kind of neat to see.
Yeah, it's definitely really interesting to see the SEC kind of have a rough season. Honestly, they did not play well.
There was a
But
joke about NILs and SEC was like, oh, like NILs ruined football because back then SEC was the only one that would get under the table
right,
NILs.
yeah. Well, that's why Saban quit. He couldn't pay his players under the table anymore. It had to be all out in the open and everything. And now everyone could just pay their players. But that's a whole separate discussion. I'm with you. I think Ohio State has played just at a ridiculously high level, save the Michigan and Oregon games earlier this year. It was weird to me that Oregon, their reward for being undefeated in the 1 seed was playing Ohio State. I don't know. That was really weird to me, but that's also another separate conversation. Yeah, I got Ohio State winning. They're just so good. Like you said, the Smith guy, the receiving core with him and the other guy whose last name I cannot pronounce, so I won't try. But they're both ridiculously good.
Well, hell, they got that defensive end as
Oh
well.
yeah, Sawyer.
Why am
That's
I
really
forgetting his
good.
name? Sawyer. Oh yeah, he's a
Yeah,
stud.
he
He's
might be
amazing.
a Bucks pick, low key. I don't know.
Ooh.
Yeah, he'd be kind of interesting. He's a good edge rusher. He's a really good pass rusher. So that would be really fascinating. And they've got those two just insane running backs like Jenkins and Henderson, both just so stinking good.
Judkins.
Oh, Judkins. I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Blaine. See, I'm mispronouncing stuff all over the place. But Zach, who you got in this Ohio State Notre Dame match?
I got Notre Dame. I will not ever say anything good about a team from Ohio.
Wow. Okay, cool.
I hate Ohio, so
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah.
I got deep personal stuff in Ohio, so I hate it, and I'll never talk good about it. So I got Notre Dame whole thing, and it's going to be a blowout. I hope they scored. I hope Ohio State scored 0 points, and I hope it's a TCU game.
Yeah, word. I don't know if I'll go that far, but I do hope Notre Dame wins. I'm with both of y'all. Marcus Freeman, like you said, Musab, it would be a really cool story to see him win because he seems like a cool coach, and they've done some really fun stuff, like that whole substitution. I forget, it was like a punt or something. They just like subbed all their players off the field against Georgia and freaked them out. That was awesome. I love the way Notre Dame plays. So it'd be outstanding to watch them win, even if it's still, their fan base is still insufferable. But that's okay. I can deal with that over Ohio State winning because Ohio State, just very smug.
I'm telling you, man. That's all I'm trying to say.
For sure. Like I said, never met an Ohio State fan that I did not find insufferable. But regardless, shifting our focus back to the NFL, I think we kind of established who our favorite teams remaining were. I think y'all mentioned the Ravens are probably your favorite team. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I got to say, I'm with you. Although the Texans are kind of cool. I like CJ Stroud quite a bit. I just don't think they have a chance this weekend against Kansas City.
No.
Yeah, it's tough. Any other teams y'all are looking out for in this playoffs, though?
I mean, the Lions.
Right.
We already talked about them, but then I think the Bills are an interesting team.
Yeah, they're really cool.
They're a team that I don't think a lot of people are talking about because they don't really have, like, outside of Josh Allen, they don't have that star player.
No,
it's awesome to see them still be so productive and good. And I think that really speaks, in my opinion, to how good Josh Allen is, that his leading touchdown catcher is Matt Collins, who's been on, 4 or 5 teams now, and he's still their starting gunner on punt coverage.
Right,
so
yeah.
It's like when I watch the Bills, I actually enjoy watching the Bills, but that's kind of the same thing. Like, I can't root for a New York team.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I don't like New York either, so I'm kind of with you. But yeah, the Bills fan base is kind of turned into unlikable as well. Ugh, like they're kind of annoying. Yeah, and they haven't really won anything.
But Josh Allen on tables and stuff now, and now they're insufferable.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a whole thing. But Josh Allen, a blast to watch. The stuff that he's doing out there, just absolutely ridiculous. I'm with you. Mr. Treek, how about you, man? You got any teams you're looking out for other than the Ravens and Lions that we haven't mentioned?
I mean, I'd be down to even see the Eagles make it just because I got a couple of big Eagles fans as well. I've loved Jalen Hurts, since he was at Bama, and then Tua Tagovailoa took his stardom and he went to Oklahoma and all that. But that's another story, anyways. But no, I mean they got a great group of guys. I mean, especially their defense: Quinion Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Zach Bond. I mean, they got a lot of Jalen Carter. Got a bunch of studs. So I feel like should be a good matchup with them and the Rams.
Absolutely.
But we'll see. We'll see how it goes, though. But I don't know. I have to say I'm a little bit more confident with the Lions, though, going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, the Lions are really good. They're tough. I mean, they haven't really they've shown.
And to think we beat them.
Right, exactly. To think that the Bucs managed to sneak out a W on the road in Detroit. That's really interesting. But Philadelphia's defense is just ridiculous. They're so good. Vic Fangio, he's just done a masterful job out there with that group. Turning Zach Bond from like a weird like edge rusher / special teams guy into an all-pro interior linebacker is probably the story of the year in my mind. We're really one of the most impressive things that the Eagles have done recently, which they've done a lot of good things because they've been doing a lot of winning lately. But yeah, the Eagles are really fun to watch as well. So a lot of really cool teams remaining. So hopefully, other than Kansas City, obviously. But before we go, we've got one last segment, awards, because they're kind of coming up around the corner. The NFL awards will give you an MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, and the Rookies of the Years for those two spots as well. We'll start with the MVP, though. In my opinion, it's come down to two guys. It's Lamar and Josh Allen. It's kind of an interesting dichotomy, like depending on where you fall on, because Josh Allen leads the league in EPA per play, but Lamar has far better passing statistics than Josh Allen. He also still runs the ball like just in a ridiculous fashion.
852 yards this season.
Yeah, just yeah, and yet that's like an afterthought because he's turned into like Peyton Manning, which is just crazy to think about. But people counter with, oh well, Josh Allen doesn't have enough help. Like Lamar's doing this with Derrick Henry and Mark Andrews. But Josh Allen, like Zach said earlier, he's doing this with Amari Cooper and Khalil Shakur and kind of a lot of no-name guys. So I don't know. My MVP is Lamar Jackson because he's just been ridiculous. And also back-to-back MVPs, his third. That would be so cool. I just genuinely think Lamar Jackson is the best player in football right now. He's just been outstanding. So that's my MVP. But Mr. Treek, how about you, man? Who's your MVP for the year?
I mean, I got to go, Lamar Jackson as well. I mean, he's had a, better statistical season than he has even in his, past MVP seasons.
Right,
so on top of that, he is – he is, in my opinion, he's one of those kind of game changers when it comes to the QB room. He's a dual threat quarterback and a really, really good one. In fact, the best dual threat quarterback right now in the league. And yes, he has help from Henry and, Mark Andrews, but he still gets the job done no matter what. And he's scary, honestly. So I can't imagine, anyone else winning it other than him because, what he's done with the Ravens and just what he's done for the whole culture of football and everything.
Yeah. He's an inspiration, I think, to a whole generation of quarterbacks, because it's been kind of the misconception that, quarterbacks can't run. Like, obviously, there have been mobile quarterbacks throughout the years, like Steve Young, Fran Tarkenton, if you want to go back, and Randall Cunningham, Mike Vick, and all those guys. But Lamar's kind of taken it to the next level. He's kind of showing that you can play not quite a college style at the NFL level, but sort of similar, read options and stuff like that. It kind of came in vogue with RG3 and stuff like that, but then it kind of took a step back because there wasn't a Lamar Jackson in the league, and now there is. And teams are like, oh, yeah, we can run this stuff in the NFL sometimes. So, yeah, I'm with you. Lamar's just been so great. He's been really outstanding to watch. And, hopefully he wins his third MVP, because that'd be a really cool storyline. But, Mr. Blaine, how about you? I mean, I think I know your answer, but, hey, maybe surprise us.
You're spot on. I've got Lamar winning the whole thing. I think that he's the development that he's made as a passer and not just a mobile quarterback, but the fact that he could literally put his numbers up against any pocket passer and they would stand up with him, I think is insane. And to add on the extra 852 rushing yards, that's wild to me. I think you said it best. He's worlds above every other quarterback, in my opinion.
Yeah, no arguments here. All right, we're unanimous. Man, that's kind of boring. No, I'm just playing. But yeah, Lamar, he's great. I think Defensive Player of the Year is up next, and I think we might have a little bit differences of opinion here because it's a little bit less clear cut who the winner is. So, Zach Blaine, I'll throw it right back at you. Who's your Defensive Player of the Year for this past season?
Okay, listen, this is not going to happen, but this is my Defensive Player of the Year. I've got Trey Hendrickson. I know I just talked trash about Ohio and not talking good about any Ohio player. They led the league in sacks. He was top 10 in almost every defensive lineman stat. First in total pressures. Just the team was not successful, but him as a player was a very successful player. But I also want to point out that I think if you look at Zach Bond, and it's crazy to think about, his stats line up very, very similar to Luke Kuechly when he won Defensive Player of the Year.
Oh, yeah.
Good shout out.
I actually saw that too.
Yeah. He's not going to win it, but I think to at least throw his name into consideration, he deserves it. And But yeah, my pick is Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah, I think Zach Bond will definitely get some down ballot votes. I don't know if those are a thing in Defensive Player of the Year, but if there are, I think Zach Bond will get some, third or fourth place type of things. And Trey Hendrickson, yeah, I mean that's a solid pick. He's had a great year. Myles Garrett's another one that had a great year too. My pick is Patrick Surtain, though. Shout out Broncos. Our producer is going to love this. He was just so good. Like he's the best cornerback in football, and it's like not really particularly close. And like I don't want to say he single-handedly made Denver a good defense, but boy, he really had a big part in it, so he was really impressive to watch this year. So Patrick Surtain's got my vote, but I also, Trey Hendrickson and Myles Garrett would have been fine too. But yeah, it's as long as it's not TJ Watt, man. TJ Watt, I don't know what to do with him, man. He's so weird.
No, I'm pretty sure there's a stat out there. I think there's a stat out there. I forgot what it was, but basically he's done like nothing recently.
Yeah, he's been struggling.
Yeah.
And it's weird because like his sack numbers are kind of deceptively fine, but like his pressures, man, he does not get after the quarterback unless he's getting home. And it's
the issue with TJ Watt is I agree with you guys 100%. Like he shouldn't win it, but he stands out so much because every time that his team needs a big play is like that's when he gives them a big play. Like he's
the first fumbles. Yeah,
he's just kind of just really good most of the time. But then like his team needs him, he's like great. I'm just like this is so like I wish it would be based off of more of a all around like how good are you all the time as opposed to how good are your big games. Like that's what it feels like for TJ Watt.
Yeah, he's kind of an odd. He's an odd duck, He's kind of a weird guy. A really good player, like no doubt, but he can't ever really crack into these Defensive Player of the Year conversations, even though he's one of the best, one of the best edge rushers in football. Like, if the Bucs had him, man, great, that's awesome. But he's kind of a strange player. But moving to the other side of the ball, Offensive Player. Oh wait, Mr. Tariq, you gave us yours.
We gotta get Musab in there.
I was going to say, I'm so
sorry.
Oh
yeah, no. It's fine, man. You already said his name already. He's actually, I believe, the favorite to win it, which is Mr. Patrick Surtain. And you know what? I'm actually for it. Because you know what? At first, I was thinking, we're always talking about, the best, Defensive Player of the Year usually ends up going to the best pass rusher and all that, right? The guy who gets the most sacks or whatever. And these guys you mentioned already, Myles Garrett, Hendrickson, and TJ Watt. Yeah, all these guys are phenomenal, but to me, I mean, cornerback is one of the hardest positions to play, if not the hardest, and he's playing at an elite level. My buddy was actually telling me that he's a huge Bengals fan, and he was telling me that Jamar Chase got locked down. He was hoping Jamar Chase was going to pop out, against the Broncos, but nope. Patrick Surtain had him locked down only for like 20-ish yards or something. So,
yep.
I'll tell you this, and I didn't think about it before, actually, but, thinking about it, you would think that someone like Patrick Surtain would have a lot of numbers and stats and all that, but, I mean, he locks down these guys so much that, he doesn't have those kind of stats, those true lockdown corners, they lack picks, they don't let their man get open, so if the ball's not getting thrown your way at all, then what kind of stat can you provide? So, and he's a game changer. And I also want to give a shout out to Nick Bonito as well on the Broncos, absolute stud as well. And I know our producer is listening to this, so I'm sure he's smiling right now wherever he is.
For sure. I mean, Zach Allen was great this year too. Like the Broncos had some really outstanding defensive players this year. And kind of some unexpected guys. I don't know that if we were looking back at this year at the beginning of the season, like Patrick Surtain, really great corner, but I don't think any of us had him like as just head and shoulders above the rest.
Someone bet on him before the season started. I think they put like $50, and I think he was like a plus. I think he was a plus like 40,000. So
I'm sure,
the guy, whoever bet on him or whatever, is going to be very rich now.
If he wins.
If he wins. If he doesn't go to Trey Hendrickson, of course.
Right. Yeah, I didn't realize Surtain was the favorite right now. That's cool. That's cool. I
Yeah.
hope that holds. I hope that comes to fruition because, like you said, it always goes to the edge rushers, and I get it. Like their impact on the game is huge because like getting after the quarterback is really important. But man, it's still really fun to watch because, like you said, cornerback's such a difficult position. They only get crap for what they do. They never really get because if they do their job, then they don't get noticed. You know what I mean? Like if they do their job, like you said, they're not getting the ball thrown their way. They're not really getting interceptions because they're locking their man down. So it is tough to judge cornerback play really, and they get. Like I said, they get crapped on so much. So it would be nice to reward the best of the position. And Patrick Surtain certainly is that. And now moving on to Offensive Player of the Year before I jumped the gun a little bit too early, but Offensive Player of the Year, I think we might be in a consensus on this, but I'll let Mr. Tariq go first. Who's your Offensive Player of the Year, Musab?
Yeah, I got to go Saquon Barkley. I mean, first of all, the way he just went from the Giants to the Eagles and immediately took off was big. I mean, this guy was breaking franchise records. He is the 9th player in NFL history to rush over 2,000 yards in a single season. So
crazy
just absolutely nuts. As you know, he was only like 100 yards away or 100, I think, in one, from passing Dickerson's single season record. So absolute stud. I mean, he played on the Eagles. So, I mean, everything just works out. So, and I mean, I don't know what else is there to say,
No, yeah. I mean, if Saquon doesn't have the season that he's having, then Jamar Chase is probably a good candidate. He's a great runner-up, but yeah, Saquon's got this award kind of in the bag. It's not really going to be a contest. Derrick Henry also had an outstanding season, and in any other season, he would be in serious contention as well. But unfortunately, like we've been saying, Saquon was just really ridiculous this year. I'm really, I don't want to say I'm glad he left the Giants because that's really harsh to the Giants, but with all due respect to New York, he's not doing this on the Giants. Their offensive line isn't good enough. Their quarterback play is so bad that every team just could have loaded up the box and just, made life really difficult for Saquon Barkley. It's great to see running backs sort of have this resurgence a little bit because Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, all three of them had really solid seasons. And I think it goes to show that running backs can still be valuable sort of as a cherry on top of a sundae of a good team. It's no longer building your team starting from the running back foundation, but man, if you have a really good team and a good running back comes in, that can make your team great. But if you have a bad team, a good running back's not going to make your team a playoff team. You know what I mean? But I'm really excited to see that Saquon and Derrick Henry. Zach, I can see you shifting around a little bit. Maybe you got something to say about that, but give us your Offensive Player of the Year first.
I mean, we are all in a consensus. It is Saquon.
For sure.
My issue is that I don't think the Eagles would have been a good team without Saquon this year.
Interesting. Okay.
I really don't. I think that they struggled at the end of last season, and it showed really bad. But I think that Saquon came in and kind of changed the tide for that team. Like, I think they were kind of in a downward spiral, and him coming in kind of just locked in that team. And I think that Saquon was, in my opinion, the best football player this year. I know that a running back's not going to win or not going to win MVP. So I'm going with Lamar for MVP, but I do think Saquon made a huge difference to that team and kind of changed the trajectory of that team, in my opinion.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, I do get where you're coming from because he did have a ridiculous season, no doubt, and he won some games for them, like single-handedly. But he's not without that offensive line. Like, does Saquon Barkley have this kind of year? I don't know. Maybe not. I like to share the credit when it comes to running backs in the running game.
Well, yeah, and I think that there is some credit to be shared 100%. I'm not saying that this was all Saquon. But I think without Saquon on this team is not as successful.
Sure, absolutely. He has definitely had a pretty decent impact. But like if you put like just pick a random team, like if you put Saquon Barkley on the Tennessee Titans, like they're not magically a playoff team, I guess is my broad.
No, but I mean that division's pretty bad too. So
right, I feel you. But like with Will, right, with Will Levis and Mason Rudolph,
put him on the Titans, he adds 4 wins.
Ooh, 3 to 4. Man, I don't know.
I think that it's that. Okay, if we take Bucky Irving off the Bucs, we lose some wins. And
Yeah.
Bucky is not. I love Bucky, but he's not Saquon.
Right. Yeah. But
So
the Bucs aren't the Eagles, though. I think the Eagles are a much better team than the Bucs are without those two players.
I disagree. I don't think the Eagles are that good.
Man, hating on the Eagles. I feel
No.
you, like,
Eagles defense, honestly, to me, Eagles defense, honestly, is what really makes them stand out more than
right.
anything.
Their defense is the
100%.
best in football.
Their defense worlds better than the Bucs. I guess if I'm just comparing offenses, I would.
Okay.
Sure. Fair
I
enough.
would probably take Tampa's offense over the Eagles' offense.
Maybe. I don't know. It's close.
Okay, with Saquon, let me rephrase that. I love Bucky, but I would not mind having Saquon around.
Right, of course. No, I feel you. But like Musab said, that defense is just so disgustingly good that, Saquon obviously carried their offense quite a bit throughout the season. But I don't know. I still think the Eagles make the playoffs. And unfortunately, like, this isn't a comment on Saquon. It's just a comment on how much a running back can truly do at this point in the NFL. Like, it's tough to really keep up with teams nowadays. And if you're running behind Mason Rudolph or Will Levis or Drew Lock and Daniel Jones throughout the season, then you're not going to have as much success, and they didn't have AJ Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert running routes as well. They also don't have, Landon Dickerson and Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata, all these elite offensive linemen. So it's kind of it's a hypothetical, and I hate hypotheticals, and yet here I am spouting them. So that goes to show how much of a hypocrite I am. But you get what I'm trying to say, though. Like, it is kind of a tough thing to try to project that kind of thing. And I don't know. Running back is a tough thing. I get that people are upset that they don't get paid as much anymore, and it's stupid. It's an outrage. Like, they take more hits than anybody, and yet they get less money. But unfortunately, that's how the NFL teams evaluate things right now. I would be interested to see if they could maybe try to shift things and, like, the positional adjustments in the draft to try to get running backs paid earlier, because having a guy get his rookie contract and then never get paid again just really seems stupid. But that's a whole nother conversation. Moving on to the rookie side of things for the awards, the offensive rookie of the year, I think we're going to be in a consensus here again. I hate to be so boring, but it's the guy that the Bucs just lost to, Jaden Daniels. Does anybody disagree?
No, not at all.
I think there was a stat, and I have not fact checked this, so if it's wrong, don't quote me. But this is the first time. There's been 3 times in NFL history that a team with a rookie quarterback has won a game and not had any turnovers or punts in that game, and all 3 of them were Jaden Daniels this season.
Wow.
So, again, I have not fact checked that, so it could be wrong, but that is a stat that I saw.
That sounds right, though, because they beat the Bengals, and I remember they didn't, because the Bengals defense. I mean, my goodness.
Then they
trying
beat
to think of
us.
some other games where that could have happened.
They beat us the playoff game.
Oh, they didn't punt or have any turnovers.
I don't believe they had a punt or a turnover. They definitely didn't have any turnovers.
Oh,
they have the turnover on downs. Does that?
Oh yeah.
Oh, see, I don't think that counts. I mean, it counts to me. Like, I get what you're saying. The ball.
No,
is,
but I get what the stat is saying, though. Like, there's no punts or like.
I guess I'm thinking the stat is no interceptions or fumbles.
Okay, I get you.
Is how I would take it, because I don't think that a turnover on downs. That's not a stat. That's
right. Yeah, I get you.
To a player.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, that's kind of a weird way to sneak around it, though, because, like, you're not punting, but you're still giving the ball to the other team. You know what I mean? But
it is definitely a workaround.
Right. Right.
Workaround stat for sure.
For sure. But no, it's definitely a cool thing. And Jaden Daniels, offensive rookie of the year, kind of without a doubt. No real questions here or arguments. But defensive rookie of the year, this is where things get interesting. I think we're going to have some variance of opinions. Zach, I'll start with you, man. Who's your defensive rookie of the year for this past year?
I think it comes down to 2 guys, and I think these 2 guys happen to be on the same team, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
I've got Jared Verse as my rookie of the year.
He's been great.
Defensive rookie of the year. 86.2 grade on PFF. I know I talk trash on PFF, but everyone else seems to really like it, so I'm going to start doing it. He had 7 pressures, which is the 4th most by any DN, not only rookie, but any DN.
Yeah, he's been insane. He's been ridiculous.
And I think that he is a stud. I mean, for him and Fisk to come in and have to they put up with the shadow of Aaron Donald and to both of them to produce at Rookie of the Year standard, because I think either one of them could win it and I would be happy. Like I'm like, yep, you deserve it. Yep. I think that just goes to show how good these guys are, and the fact that they play together in college, like they're just two studs. I mean, there's no other way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, if Verse wins, cool, all good. Yeah, I'm not really upset about it at all. I picked Fisk, but like you said, if Verse wins, all good and then all good.
Yeah.
I'm not really upset either way. Miss Street, maybe you have a third, kind of a third party. We can have 3 different players, or maybe you agree with one of us. And
come on, throw a Tyke Smith up there, Musab.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say Tyke Smith as a joke, but I'm actually gonna go with Tyreek Funderburg.
Oh yeah, that's rude to Tyreek. Poor guy.
All right, no, on the real, no, I gotta go Jared Verse. I mean, yeah, Carter. I mean, if not Verse, then Fisk. Both of them absolute studs. It's crazy to think that they were, they played in college together, and now they're on the Rams together. Both, putting some damage out there, and yeah, they had big shoes to fill. But I just kind of came across this. Shout out to Stu Jackson on Twitter. He said that Jared Verse is the first rookie since Micah Parsons in 2021 to have 3 or more games with at least 3 quarterback hits. So I know obviously he's not some kind of sack machine, but he's still making a big difference out there. So yeah, I'm gonna lean Verse, but I'll be fine with Fisk as well.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Verse, Fisk, it's all gravy. It's all the same. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned sacks. He's not the sack machine, but I think the biggest positive to take away from kind of I don't want to call it the analytical movement or whatever, because that's kind of cliche, but people are realizing, like, just because you don't get a sack doesn't mean that you didn't have a big impact on the play as a defensive lineman. And I think that's great. I think that it's wonderful that we've reached a point where we can recognize that, because it's all about the process. If you're getting after the quarterback, if you're doing the right things, eventually you're going to get there. Eventually you're going to get a sack. That's just how it is. But you're not always going to, because things are sometimes out of your control. So, but yeah, Fisk, Verse, whichever one, I think we'll all be happy. But we really appreciate.
Is there even a third option? Like, I'm trying to think realistically, and I'm not trying to sound like negative towards other rookies, but like I can't even think of a third option.
Maybe if you squint really hard, Quinion Mitchell, but
what about that safety on the Texans?
Oh goodness, what is his name? Yeah, he's been racking up interceptions this year.
He's he was really good.
Yeah, he was outstanding this year too.
But I mean, that goes to show you, I can't remember his name, so he can't
right. No, I get you.
Put him in there.
Oh, is it Kalen Bullock?
Bullock, yep.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, he was a 3rd round guy out of USC. Yeah, I mean, he was his he at least had 5 interceptions from what I can read. Yeah, so that's a really good rookie year. Excuse me, especially for a safety. So yeah, but those 2 guys from the Rams probably going to end up winning it. Any other closing thoughts before we log off, or are y'all good, excited for the weekend of football?
Yeah, ready for football. Excited. I think we can get some passing stats for our giveaway.
Yeah, during the commercial breaks, I'll be on NFL Draft Buzz.
Oh, yep, I feel you. Yeah, I think we all are.
It's time to get back in the lab, fellas.
Time to find some Musab Tariq hidden gems. That's right.
Yeah,
I am excited. I'm excited to talk some prospects. Honestly, it's just going to be fun. Talk about some college football players, because hey, college football is a lot of fun too. But we really appreciate y'all for tuning in. We're gonna bring our night to a close. Definitely give us a follow, give us a like, give us a subscribe if you liked what you heard. You can follow us at RBLR Sports or at RBLR Bucs. Because we're going to be coming out with a bunch of new content. Just because it's the off season for the team doesn't mean it's the off season for us. We're going to be coming at you. And like Musab said, we're going to have a lot of draft content. We're going to be going through position stuff. We're going to be going through, positions of need, maybe some surprise guys, or maybe some surprise positions that maybe the Bucs will target that maybe we're not thinking of. But regardless, we really appreciate y'all for tuning in. Thank you to my co-host for making my job easy. And as always, go Bucs.
Go Bucs.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.